gonna need, yeah, 48 of them, 48 bolts, 48 washers, and 48 nuts. So yeah, that's all right there. Anyway, so we're just gonna get started. First thing I did was put the machine up on the trailer, obviously. And you gotta put it right where you want it. Now I guess if there's a drawback to this whole system, it's that this is where you're gonna put your machine every time. So if you're ever gonna want to load something else on the trailer along with it or whatever, these are permanent in a way. So you gotta decide where you're gonna put your machine. So we took a little time to make sure that it was centered in the trailer, and then it's kind of fore and aft where I want to put it. I've got basically the engine sitting on top of the axle of the trailer, rest of it up front. So get the machine positioned where you want it, and then you start placing your wheel chocks, and we'll start doing that. So with the chocks in place, you can kind of see how it's going to work. That's bolted down, and you're just going to run a strap up and over the tire and back down to that one. So you just position these, and I kind of got lucky. Everything's right in the, inside of a board. Position all of your chocks where you're going to put them, and once you got that all done, again, just kind of make sure everything is where you want it. I did kind of snug these up in, not too much. I'm gonna, give myself a little bit of wiggle room in there. But yeah, now the next thing I do, I got to take a marker and just mark all of the holes on all of them. Can't get the ones in there really well. So what I'll do when I get this off, I'll just lay this back down and use it as a pattern and mark those 2 holes on each one up in there. But now that you got this part done, got to pull the machine off so we can start the drilling. So you can kind of see the holes that I marked. Again, I'll just kind of use those as a template, kind of set these back in place so that I can now mark those 2 holes. So, start drilling. Okay, so we put them all back in place, push the bolts down in, two washers, big washers underneath, lock nuts. This is the part where you'll need some help, somebody holding the bolts on the top while you're on the bottom, tightening everything up. But yeah, everything's bolted down, everything's in place. So once we get to this point, now we're just going to pull the machine back on the trailer and test them out. So if you've ever used an E-track type system before, I don't know if I can get this or not. This little lever right here, so you open it up like that, stick it in the channel, and then click it, and then that's what holds it down in. So lay these out. Click this down in here, lift this handle up, stick it in, make sure it clicks. Taking it out is just the opposite. Lift the lever up, slide it that way, comes out. Anyway, clicked in place. Make sure your strap centered in the tire. Give yourself a little strap to work with. I always like to make sure I get a couple of wraps around in here. Some people like to pull them tight like that, but that only gives you about a half a wrap around that bar. So I like to give myself a little slack just so that I have at least one full wrap around there so it doesn't come loose. And just cinch it down and it's done. Just do all 4 wheels that way, or 2 if you only have 2 sets, either way. But it holds the wheels, everything solid down, but the body can still move around with the bumps. And to take them off, you just push this little button right here down and lift it up, and then it's loose. Take it off. Piece of cake. Yeah, that's the gist of it right there. Say just center on the tire, suck it down, and like any tie down, you're going to want to stop, especially on a long trip, stop regularly and check them, make sure they stay tight. But yeah, that's the gist. Like I say, I'll put a link down in the description of where I bought it. I just bought them off of Amazon. So you can kind of see the finished product. It gives you 2 options to where to attach, front and back, but it's kind of a built-in wheel chock, which is kind of nice because when you're driving up onto the trailer, the wheel kind of finds its center, which is nice, so you're in place. And yeah, bolted down. If I had a little bit of a complaint, the holes in here are kind of small. I mean, I had to use 1/4 inch bolts, which there is 6 of them, and there's 4 on the section here where that's actually there any stress on it, so it's probably more than enough. But it would have been nice to have a little bit bigger bolt, but this hole would have been a little close to the edge here too. So I don't know, if I had a complaint, a little bit bigger holes for bolts would have been a little nice. But like I say, they're rated at 1,500 pounds for a set. So the way I've got mine set up now, I guess I'm rated at 3,000 pounds, I suppose. But yeah, that's the gist. So about the time I finished this project, my wife, she was been out front doing some yard work, and she told me she needed to take a trip to Lowe's. And I thought, well, let's go to Lowe's. I'll throw a camera on the trailer and we'll take this down and back and keep an eye on it with the camera and just see how this setup works. It was a good little test. So off to Lowe's we went, and from our house it's about 25 miles each way, and it's all highway, so I mean it's fairly smooth, but still give us some idea of how well it works. And we don't have the smoothest roads here. I mean, you'll see right here with this few bumps here and there. But yeah, I'm kind of impressed with the way these things work. I think the idea is pretty solid. Keeping the tire strapped down, it allows the body to, the suspension to move and flex and kind of bounce around, but keeps it sucked down by the wheels and tires themselves. I think it's quite the idea. When you're running a ratchet strap and you're hooking it up to the body and sucking it down, you're compressing the suspension down, and every time you hit a bump, the machine drops, the suspension compresses, it puts slack in the straps, and then it rebounds, and then it bangs against the straps, and I think there's just this constant jarring against the ratchet straps, and I think this way solves that problem. I mean, like I say, you can see the machine kind of wiggling around and moving around. Like I say, we about 50 miles to Lowe's and back, and I did check them when we got back, and they were still pretty tight. But after 50 miles on any trip, I would have stopped and checked them anyway. And I do recommend whatever method of securement you use, stop often and check them. But they were still pretty tight. I mean, they could have used 1 click probably. But I say so far, I'm happy. I mean, time will tell, and I'll give you an update as time goes on. We've got a long trip to Marysville next month, so we'll see how they work. I was hoping that I could use these same chocks on my ATV, but I think my ATV is just going to be too narrow. I obviously wouldn't reach the back, but I was assuming I could
lock my front wheels of my ATV in the set of front ones, but I think my ATV is just a little bit too narrow. It may not work. So I may have to put some D-rings in it anyway and just use ratchet straps on my ATV. But we'll see. But for the side-by-side, I think this is the ticket. I think this is the way to go. But anyway, and I wanted to say, hey, we're over 800 subscribers to the channel. And huge shout out to all of you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the videos and the interaction below in the comments, questions, and other guys answering them. And it's quite the community, and I appreciate all of you just taking the time to interact with each other and with me. And I'm going to try and get better. I've just been working a lot of hours, but trying to get better at posting more videos more often. But the season isn't really quite here yet, and it's been raining and snowing, and it's just been a mess here. But we'll get better at it. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the video, and we will see you in the next one.